So, what do I think about human civility? A pretty interesting question. This one comes from Charles, so thanks, Charles, for the challenging question. I do have thoughts on this topic, but before I get into that, let's just define what civility is here. Dictionary tells us formal politeness and courtesy in behavior or speech. So, we're not talking about just being nice. We're talking about kind of formal rules for how you treat other people in order to signal a sense of kindness and respect, right? So, I think civility is definitely a very important thing. It's really important for the beginnings of building trust between people in society. Living together in a society or as a family or any group, it's important that we have some kind of sense of what's appropriate behavior towards each other, such that it encourages cooperation and such that we maintain a sense of happiness. And civility is kind of one of the key aspects of that. It's not the same, and it's not, to me, as important as a kind of earnest kindness. So these are formal rules for how you behave towards other people. They're very important for strangers. They're important for the first time you meet people. They're important for open social interactions. But between friends and between people who know each other and partners, I think just kind of an earnest kindness is more important. Civility actually seems like kind of a little bit of a false front, and that's because we understand that civility is supposed to be a little bit of a facade that protects each other from kind of our harsher realities and our more intense feelings. So when we're with people who we really trust, I think an earnest kindness is more important. And honestly, it's something that I try to strive for kind of in my everyday interactions, is to be just generally nice and kind of openly. But there are times when I'm generally not feeling this way, but I'm still going to implement civility and kindness in a way that's going to signal that I want to be nice and I want to get along well, even if I'm having a bad day or something like that. Where somebody's annoying me just a little bit, I don't want to get into that, so we're just going to stay on a kind of a civil level. So it's important because it builds trust between people and it fosters cooperation. It keeps the peace when our emotions are running high, and that can be really important in order to get things done. So it's really important in a work environment or in a government environment or something like this. It offers kind of a general bulwark against negativity and misunderstanding. So if we're not minding our P's and Q's, as the case may be, we might accidentally send a signal that's very negative and antagonistic to somebody else, and then we're going to get kind of a rolling escalation of anger and resentment and negativity, and it all goes downhill. So we can avoid that by having a base level of politeness. Then that's really good for everybody and for cooperation and just getting on with life and avoiding unnecessary and kind of wasteful drama, right? It also offers a path to reconciliation. So if people generally have problems with each other, and there's some antagonism going on and there's some upset feelings, by maintaining civility, we can sort of forge a path to reconciliation. Whereas if we just go all out and show our true inner feelings of anger and anxiety and everything else, that's not going to happen, right? We're just going to escalate and it's going to get worse. So as a de-escalation tool, as a way to move things towards a better place, I think civility is really useful tool and really important. Now, it does have its limits. Some people are like, you should be civil all the time. Well, no, there are times you should not be civil. When things are outrageous, when someone has decided to just deliberately disrespect you, and they do it over and over again, they're trying to abuse you, the time for civility has passed. If someone declares war on you, well, you have to go back. Now, maybe if you want to reach a peace agreement later on, after the anger has boiled over, then civility is a great way to do that. But if somebody is in your face screaming at you, civility is not always the best reaction. Sometimes they will just see you as a victim and they'll keep going, and that's not good. It's important to indicate that you are now angry and somebody has broken their line of civility, and you can break yours too. It's not always the best course, but I think most of the time an earnest and honest response to someone else is useful and important in protecting yourself and establishing what the situation is. It can be a false face. We could just put on a face of civility, be really nice to somebody in front, and then stab them in the back. That's not really a great thing. I mean, maybe it's better than open hostility. Probably not. So I think we want to be somewhat genuine in our emotions, especially with people we have to work with. And then we want to move to this sort of more earnest communication. But I don't know, sometimes the false face is actually pretty useful and important. So they're kind of 50-50 there. It can get in the way of earnest exchange between people. If everyone insists on a very formal kind of civility, it can get in the way of a deeper friendship or a deeper relationship or a romance or anything else. So I do think there are times when you want to let the face of civility drop a little bit and be more earnest, especially once you've developed a little bit of trust using civility, then you can kind of move to the next level. All right, so generally speaking, I think we probably still need more civility than we have, especially in this day and age. We've got a lot of political rancor going on. Now, I'm not saying we should not have politics. We should not get angry when we think there are outrages or injustices. Now we should. But, at least when you're talking to strangers, let's start out on a civil foot. Let's not start out waving the flag or pointing the gun or whatever it is that we're going to do to say, I'm a true believer, right? Start on an even footing, and then we can build up from there. I go on to forums and stuff. I love to debate and argue, to be honest. So I wade into these discussions with people who are rah, rah, rah. And honestly, not 100% of the time, but I try to bring some civility to these discussions, take it down a tone, get it on a more intellectual level, a little less emotional level if I can. There are some topics that you're inevitably going to be emotional, but I try to show some respect to my opponent. Now, if the person I'm arguing with, or they have a wild opinion and they're just starting out from a place of extreme obnoxiousness, well, I will reflect that and I will bring the obnoxiousness right back to them. If that's the language they speak, the language they understand, I will do it. But I think we should all try to move these discussions in a civil direction whenever possible, especially online. People take this anonymity as an excuse to kind of go crazy. I think that stems partly from the fact that civility is something we kind of hate sometimes. Like, it gets in the way of us expressing our true feelings. We feel kind of oppressed and controlled. That's like a big problem here in Japan. Some people commit suicide because they're so pent up. And we love to see somebody else go berserk. That's why we love stand-up comedy, where they will drop swearing and F-bombs and say outrageous things. And it's great. It feels cathartic. It's very liberating. You see a lot of this on the internet as well. And then people want to get in on it, right? They want to do it too. And so they get in, they emulate that. But I think there needs to be kind of a time and a place for this sort of liberation of expression, right? It's great in a comedy club. We've got kind of a formal expression. We know this is going to happen. And so we're prepared for it. We can kind of all engage in it without creating real animosity with each other, right? So I think that's kind of an important outlet, but we just can't let it be our normal mode of operation, or we just create so much anger and chaos, and it runs really deep after a while. It's no joke. It's not cathartic. It just makes us tired and aggravated, and I think too much of it is a real problem. So I think we need to dial that back. There are proper outlets for it. Let people know, like, hey, we're going to be outrageous today. We're going to say some crazy things. Okay, that's fine. Sometimes you got to do that. Do it myself from time to time, right? But for the most part, when we're dealing with people we don't know, we should try to have a civil face and try to be civil towards other people, and hopefully they will be civil back to us, and we can live good, peaceful lives and get on with things. And I think that's good. Think of it as a kind of social lubrication, and I think it's real nice. So that's what I think about civility. Thanks for the question. Thanks for watching. Okay, bye-bye.